Today we're discussing protests sweeping Iran following the death of a young woman. Masha Amini was a young woman taken into custody by the Iranian regime's so-called morality police. Her offense? Allegedly improperly wearing her headscarf or hijab, which is mandatory by law. Masha Amini was a healthy young woman when she went into custody. Other women in the detention center say they saw her being brutally beaten by police while in custody. The horrified public, led by women, has responded with protests. These protests are calling not merely for an end to the mandatory hijab law, but for wholesale regime change. The regime has responded by cracking down on protesters, killing many more, and this has led, in turn, to sanctions against the Iranian government by other countries, including Canada. What do these sanctions mean, and what more do we need to know about the protests, and how can Canadians help? Here today to discuss this are two experts, Kaveh Shahrooz and Shaparak Shajarizadeh. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Shaparak, let's start with you. What more do we need to know about the background of the protests and what is going on in Iran?
Hello, thank you for inviting me, Christian. It's been over 4 decades that Iranian people have been suppressed, especially Iranian women. Iranian women lost many rights after the revolution in 1979. And apart from that, they have been facing violence every day in the streets, systematic violence by the government, by their so-called morality police, or even so people who are sympathetic with the leader, the leader's supporter. So the fear of being attacked in the streets is like a shadow on our shoulder every day when we go out. They want Iranian women to have a specific dress code. But as you see, during these years, Iranian women push back their boundaries, and because this is not our culture, not many people believe in hijab, and many Iranian women are educated, and they want a life of a woman in like other countries, like democratic countries, and other from that suppression of the other ethnic, suppression of other religions, suppression of LGBTQ community altogether.
Kaveh, is there anything that you want to add to the background of the death of this young woman at the hands of the morality police, or about the mandatory hijab law and its history in Iran?
Not much beyond what Shaparak has said. I will say that the mandatory hijab laws and the morality police, these are parts of the daily indignities that Iranian women have to deal with. Iranian women under the law, like this is not interpretation of the law. This is literally the law. They are considered worth half of men. Their testimony is worth half of men. So we live, or Iranians live with a regime that devalues them daily. And it's important to remember that Iranian women have actually been at the forefront of fighting this regime from day one. So in 1979, 1980, when the regime introduced this mandatory hijab law, women were the ones that went out, tens of thousands of them, in the street. They were met with batons. They had acid thrown in their faces, and they continued to fight. And I'm glad that they're leading the charge now.
It's incredible that people who have been most victimized by the regime are the ones leading the charge against it when the consequences to them can be so great. Shaparak, what can you tell me about some of those consequences? What has the regime done to respond to these protests? We've got about a minute.
They usually arrest women. They behave badly. They're so brutal. But these days, during the protests, as you see, they're killing not just women. They're killing teenagers. They are beating up teenagers to death, and that's devastating to see the news, to see their videos, how alive and happy they wanted to be, and now they're dead for freedom, for demanding freedom.
Kaveh, we've got 10 seconds. Is there an estimate on how many people have been killed in these protests?
The official number that I've heard is about 150, but that's almost certainly an underestimate. It's going to be a multiple of that once the facts are fully revealed.